The rain lashed down on Lily Mitchell as she stood just outside the diner, which was closed for the night, and her mascara ran down her face in streaks. Her hands were shaking as she stared at the eviction notice clutched in her soaking wet fingers. She had just 72 hours to find $3,000, or she would lose everything she owned. The street was deserted, completely dark, and she had absolutely nowhere to go. She didn't even hear the SUV as it pulled up right behind her. She didn't notice the expensive Italian shoes stepping into the puddles until a deep voice cut straight through the storm. "A woman like you shouldn't be out here all alone." She turned around, her heart hammering in her chest, and found the most dangerous man in all of New York standing only inches away from her. Roman Castillo. Everyone knew his name. Everyone feared him. But in that moment, as his dark eyes locked onto hers with an intensity that completely stole her breath away, he reached out and pulled her underneath his umbrella. "You're safe now," he told her. And somehow, impossibly, she believed him. If you want to discover how this moment changed everything and what happens next in Lily's life, subscribe to the channel and leave a comment telling us where you're watching from. Every view helps bring more stories like this one. Now, let's go back to where it all began. Lily's feet ached as she balanced 3 plates along her left arm. It was a familiar kind of ache, and a comfort after 6 long years of waiting tables. Giorgio's Italian restaurant, located in Manhattan's Little Italy, was always packed on Friday nights, and tonight was no exception. The comforting smell of garlic and fresh bread filled the air as she wove her way between the tables, her practiced smile never faltering, even though the exhaustion was pulling at her very bones. "Table 7 needs more wine," Marco, the other waiter, called out as he rushed past her with a tray full of desserts. She nodded, already calculating how many more hours until her shift finally ended. Then it would be the morning shift at the coffee shop, followed by the afternoon cleaning houses on the Upper East Side. 3 jobs barely kept her head above water, but it was all that she had. The student loans from her unfinished nursing degree weren't going to pay themselves, and her mother's medical bills just kept piling up back in Ohio. The restaurant doors opened with a gust of cold October air, and Lily glanced up automatically to greet the new arrivals. Her breath caught in her throat. 4 men in dark suits entered first, their eyes scanning the entire restaurant with a professional precision. Then he walked in, tall, easily 6 feet 3 inches, with jet black hair and a face that belonged on the cover of a magazine. If magazines featured men who looked like they could kill you with their bare hands, that is. His charcoal suit was perfectly tailored and probably cost more than Lily made in 6 months. And when his dark eyes swept the room, conversations faltered mid-sentence. Everyone knew Roman Castillo. The whispers said that he controlled half of New York's underground operations. The police couldn't touch him. Politicians feared him. And now he was standing in Giorgio's, looking directly at her. Lily's heart hammered in her chest as their eyes met across the crowded restaurant. Something electric passed between them, a connection that she couldn't quite name and didn't want to acknowledge. She quickly looked away, busying herself with refilling water glasses, but she could feel his gaze following her every movement. Giorgio, the owner, appeared at her elbow, his face pale and sweating, despite the cool evening air. "Lily, Mr. Castillo's table. You'll serve them personally." It wasn't a request. She smoothed her black apron with shaking hands and walked toward the private table in the back corner, where Roman and his men had already settled. Up close, he was even more devastating. A sharp jawline, a small scar just above his left eyebrow, and eyes so dark that they were almost black. Her tattoo peeked out from his collar, some kind of script that she couldn't read. "Good evening," she managed, her voice steadier than she felt. "Can I start you with drinks?" Roman leaned back in his chair, studying her with an intensity that made her skin prickle. "What's your name?" "Lily. Lily Mitchell." "Lily?" He tested her name on his tongue, like he was tasting an expensive wine. "You've worked here long?" "6 years. She clutched her order pad. "The wine list is—" "I know you're working 3 jobs. It wasn't a question." His voice was smooth and controlled, with just a hint of an Italian accent that sent shivers down her spine. "Coffee shop in the morning, here at night, cleaning houses in between." She stiffened. How do you? I make it my business to know things. His eyes never left hers. That's a lot of work for one person, Lily. One of his men chuckled, but Roman silenced him with a single look. The power dynamics were perfectly clear. When Roman Castillo spoke, people listened. When he wanted silence, silence fell. I'm fine, she said, lifting her chin. She'd learned early on not to show any weakness. Not in this neighborhood. What can I get you, gentlemen? Something flickered in Roman's expression. Approval, maybe. Bring us the Bulgari Sassicaia, the 2015. That was a $400 bottle. Lily nodded and turned to leave, but his voice stopped her. Lily, one more thing. She looked back over her shoulder. Be careful walking home tonight. The streets aren't safe for someone like you. The words should have sounded like a threat. Instead, they sounded like a promise. For hours later, Lily counted her tips in the back room, her fingers cramping from exhaustion. A good night, but nowhere near enough. She still needed the impossible $3,000 by Monday, or she'd lose her apartment. The small studio in Brooklyn wasn't much, but it was hers, the only stability she'd had in years. The rain started as she left through the back door, cold drops that quickly turned into a downpour. Of course, she'd left her umbrella at the coffee shop that morning. Lily pulled her thin jacket tighter and started the 10-block walk to the subway station. She made it 3 blocks before she realized that someone was following her. The footsteps were subtle at first, just slightly out of sync with her own. Lily's pulse quickened. She knew this neighborhood, knew its rhythms and its dangers. She turned down a side street, her usual shortcut, and the footsteps followed. Hey there, pretty girl. She spun around. 2 men blocked the alley entrance, both wearing hoodies that shadowed their faces. One held something in his hand that glinted in the streetlight. A knife, purse, phone. Now, Lily's mind raced. The $300. Her phone, with her mother's only contact number. The keys to an apartment she might not have in 3 days anyway, but it was everything that she had. Please, she heard herself say, hating the tremor in her voice. I need. The man with the knife stepped closer. I don't care what you need. Hand it over, or... The roar of an engine cut him off. Headlights flooded the alley, and a black SUV screeched to a stop, blocking the exit. The back door opened, and Roman Castillo stepped out into the rain like an avenging angel in a 3-piece suit. He didn't say a word. He didn't have to. The 2 men took one look at him and ran, disappearing into the maze of alleys like rats fleeing a sinking ship. Roman walked toward Lily slowly, deliberately, his shoes splashing through the puddles. Up close, rain was plastering his dark hair to his forehead. He looked almost human. Almost. You're safe now, he said again. And this time, she felt tears mixing with the rain on her cheeks. Lily stood frozen in the alley, rain-soaked and shaking, as Roman Castillo's dark eyes searched her face. Behind him, his men emerged from the SUV, silent sentinels in the downpour. Get in the car, Roman said. It wasn't a command, but it wasn't exactly a request either. She shook her head, finding her voice. I'm fine. Thank you for helping, but I can take the subway. At midnight? After you were just attacked? His jaw tightened. Not happening, Lily. The way he said her name, like he'd been saying it his whole life, made something warm unfurl in her chest, despite the cold rain. But she'd learned not to trust men who appeared out of nowhere offering help. There was always a price. I don't even know you, she said, wrapping her arms around herself. Why do you care what happens to me? Roman stepped closer, and she caught the scent of his cologne, something expensive and woodsy that made her head spin. He shrugged off his suit jacket and draped it over her shoulders before she could protest. The warmth was immediate, almost overwhelming. Because, he said softly, I watched you serve tables for 4 hours tonight, smiled at every customer, even when they were rude, helped the busboy when he was overwhelmed, gave your dinner break to that new girl who looked ready to cry. He tilted his head. You think I don't notice things like that? Lily's breath caught. No one had noticed her in years. She was invisible. Just another waitress in a city of millions. But Roman Castillo, the most dangerous man in New York, had seen her. That doesn't mean. By Monday, that's what you need. The blood drained from her face. How do you? I told you, I make it my business to know things. He studied her with those penetrating dark eyes. Your landlord's a piece of work, by the way. Doubled your rent last month, knowing you'd struggle. Enjoys threatening vulnerable women. Anger flashed through her. I'm not vulnerable. No. A small smile tugged at his lips. You're not. But you are in trouble, and I can help. There it was, the catch. What do you want in return? Roman was quiet for a moment, rain streaming down his face. When he spoke, his voice was careful, measured. I need someone I can trust. Someone outside my world, someone clean. Clean. My grandmother's sick. The admission seemed to cost him something. His jaw clenched. Lung cancer. Stage 4. She refuses to go to a hospital. Doesn't trust them. Says she wants to die in her own home with dignity. He paused. You started nursing school before you had to drop out. Lily's hands trembled. Her nursing degree, the dream she'd sacrificed for her mother's medical bills. I'm not a nurse. I only completed 2 years. You know more than most. And my grandmother. He ran a hand through his wet hair, and for the first time, she saw vulnerability in his expression. She's the only family I have left. The only person who ever gave a damn about me. I need someone who will care for her like she's their own family. Someone kind. The rain pounded harder, soaking through Lily's thin shirt, despite Roman's jacket. She should walk away, should run. Men like Roman Castillo were dangerous, and getting involved with him would only lead to trouble. But $3,000, her apartment, and a dying grandmother who deserved kindness in her final days. What exactly would I be doing? She asked quietly. Relief flickered across his face. Living in my grandmother's wing of the estate, making sure she takes her medications, keeping her comfortable. Talking to her, she gets lonely. He pulled out a phone, thumbed through it and showed her a photo. An elderly woman with silver hair and kind eyes smiled from the screen, sitting in a garden surrounded by roses. She looked nothing like Lily expected a mob boss's grandmother to look. She looked like someone's beloved Nana. Her name is Maria, Roman said softly. She raised me after my parents died. Taught me about honor, about protecting the people you love. She's the reason He trailed off, then cleared his throat. She doesn't have much time left. Lily stared at the photo, her heart aching. She thought of her own mother back in Ohio, fighting her own health battles. What would she want for herself? Kindness, dignity, someone who cared. I'll pay off your debt tonight, Roman continued. $3,000 to your landlord, plus another $2,000 for your mother's medical bills. Yes, I know about those too. In return, you move into the estate tomorrow and care for my grandmother until... He didn't finish the sentence. Until she passes, Lily finished for him. That could be weeks, months. I know. Giorgio will understand. I'll make sure of it. You'll have your own room, your own space, full access to everything you need. A salary of $5,000 a week. Lily's head spun. $5,000 a week. That was more than she made in 2 months working 3 jobs. It was impossible. It was insane. It was the answer to her prayers. She'd been too tired to pray. And after her service, she heard herself ask, when your grandmother, after, you're free to go, no strings. I'll even pay for you to finish your nursing degree if you want. He stepped closer, close enough that she could see gold flecks in his dark eyes. I'm not asking you to be part of my world, Lily. I'm asking you to help the only person in it who matters. The rain fell between them, and Lily felt like she was standing at a crossroads. One path led back to her struggling life. 3 jobs, constant exhaustion, always one emergency away from losing everything. The other path led into the unknown, into the orbit of a dangerous man whose world she didn't understand. But when she looked at the photo of Maria again, she didn't see danger. She saw someone who needed her, someone she could help. Okay, she whispered. I'll do it. Roman's expression transformed. The dangerous mob boss disappeared, replaced by something raw and grateful. "Thank you," he said, and she believed he meant it. He gestured to the SUV. "Come, we'll get you dry and take care of the landlord's situation tonight." This time, Lily got in the car. The interior of the SUV was warm and leather-scented. Lily sank into the seat as one of Roman's men handed her a towel. Roman sat across from her, already on his phone, speaking rapid Italian to someone on the other end. She caught words like domani and nana, but the rest was too fast. He hung up and turned his attention to her. "My driver will take you home. Pack what you need. We'll send for the rest tomorrow. Then we'll visit your landlord." "You don't have to come with me for that," Lily said. "I can handle." "Yes, I do." His voice was firm. "Men who threaten women in my city need to understand that there are consequences." Something in his tone made her shiver, but not from fear, from the intensity of his protection. Like she'd suddenly become someone worth protecting. The SUV pulled up outside her building 20 minutes later. Roman escorted her up the 4 flights of stairs. The elevator was broken again, to her tiny studio apartment. She was acutely aware of how shabby everything must look to him. The peeling wallpaper, the flickering hallway light, the neighbor's TV blaring through the thin walls. But Roman didn't seem to notice. Or if he did, he didn't judge. Lily unlocked her door and hesitated. "You can wait here. I'll just be a minute." He nodded, positioning himself outside like a sentinel. She closed the door and leaned against it, her heart racing. What was she doing? This was crazy, insane. But when she looked around her apartment, at the past due bills stacked on the counter, the empty fridge, the mattress on the floor because she'd sold her bed frame months ago, she knew she was out of options. She packed quickly. Clothes, toiletries, the few photos she had of her mother, her nursing textbooks, even though she hadn't opened them in 2 years. Within 15 minutes, she had everything that mattered in 2 duffel bags. Roman took them from her without a word and carried them down to the SUV. Then they went to apartment 1A, where her landlord lived. The man who answered the door was exactly what Lily expected. Middle-aged, beer gut, stained undershirt. His eyes widened when he saw Roman standing behind her. "Mr. Castellaniano," Roman said, his voice pleasant but laced with steel. "I understand you've been harassing Miss Mitchell." The landlord paled. I don't know what she told you, but $3,000, that's what she owes me." Roman pulled out a money clip thick with bills. "Here's $5,000. Consider the extra payment for your future discretion. Miss Mitchell will be moving out tonight, and you'll never contact her again. Are we clear?" The landlord's hands shook as he took the money. "Crystal clear, Mr. Castillo." "Crystal clear." Roman leaned in close, and his voice dropped to something deadly. "If I hear you've treated any other tenant the way you treated her, we'll have another conversation, one you won't enjoy. Understood?" The man nodded frantically. As they walked away, Lily couldn't help but smile. "You enjoyed that?" Roman glanced at her, and one corner of his mouth lifted a little. Back in the SUV, as they drove through the rain-slicked streets of New York toward whatever came next, Lily realized her life had just changed forever. "Tomorrow morning," Roman said, "you'll meet my grandmother. She's going to love you." Lily hoped he was right, because she'd just put her trust in the most dangerous man in the city, and there was no going back now. The Castillo estate sat on 5 acres in Westchester County, hidden behind iron gates and tall hedges that screamed old money and older secrets. As the SUV wound up the private drive, Lily pressed her face to the window like a child, taking in manicured gardens that glowed in the early morning light, marble fountains, and the mansion itself. A sprawling Italian villa that looked like it belonged in Tuscany, not New York. "This is where you grew up?" she breathed. Roman, sitting beside her in a fresh suit, somehow he'd managed to look impeccable despite the late night, nodded. "My grandfather built it in the 1950s. Wanted to recreate his home in Sicily." His voice softened. "My grandmother has her own wing on the east side. Gardens, morning sun, view of the rose bushes, everything she loves." The vulnerability in his voice surprised her. This wasn't the dangerous mob boss everyone feared. This was a grandson who loved his grandmother desperately and was watching her die. They pulled up to the front entrance, where a woman in her 50s waited, silver-streaked hair pulled into a neat bun, kind eyes, warm smile. "Mr. Roman," she said, then turned to Lily. "And you must be Miss Mitchell. I'm Teresa, the estate manager. Welcome." "Thank you," Lily managed, suddenly aware of her rumpled clothes and the fact that she'd gotten maybe 3 hours of sleep. "Teresa will show you to your room," Roman said. "You should rest for a few hours. My grandmother doesn't wake until 10 o'clock. She likes her sleep." "I'm fine," Lily protested, even though exhaustion pulled at her bones. "I can rest." His hand touched her lower back, gentle but firm, guiding her toward the entrance. "That's an order. You're no good to my grandmother if you collapse from exhaustion." The house was stunning. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, artwork that probably cost more than Lily's entire life. Teresa led her through hallways filled with photographs. A young boy with dark hair and serious eyes. The same boy growing into a teenager, then a man. Roman, she realized, growing up in this beautiful prison. "Here we are," Teresa said, opening a door to reveal a bedroom that made Lily's breath catch. Four-poster bed with silk sheets. Private bathroom visible through an open door. French windows overlooking the gardens. "This connects to Mrs. Maria's suite through that door. You'll have privacy, but you'll be able to hear if she needs anything." "It's beautiful," Lily whispered. "Mr. Roman had it prepared for you last night," Teresa smiled. "Fresh clothes in your size in the closet. He's very thorough. Breakfast will be ready when you wake. Rest well, dear." When Teresa left, Lily sank onto the bed, the softest thing she'd felt in years, and stared at the ceiling. What was she doing? This wasn't her world. She was a waitress from Brooklyn, not someone who belonged in Italian villas with marble floors and silk sheets, but $5,000 a week. Her mother's medical bills paid. A chance to use her nursing training to help someone who needed her. She fell asleep thinking about Roman's hands carefully draping his jacket over her shoulders in the rain. 3 hours later, Lily woke to soft knocking. She scrambled up, disoriented, until she remembered where she was. Afternoon sun streamed through the windows. "Miss Mitchell," Teresa's voice. "Mrs. Maria is awake and asking to meet you." Lily's heart hammered as she quickly showered and changed into one of the outfits from the closet. Dark jeans and a soft cream sweater that probably cost more than her weekly salary. When she entered Maria's suite, she found an entirely different world. The rooms were cozy despite their size, filled with photos and memories. Italian music played softly from a radio. The windows overlooked roses in full bloom. And sitting in a chair by the window, wrapped in a soft blanket despite the warm day, was Maria Castillo. She was tiny, bird-like, with silver hair in a neat bun and eyes the same dark shade as Roman's. When she smiled, her whole face transformed. "Ah," she said in accented English. "You must be the angel my grandson brought me. Come, let me see you." Lily approached, shy despite herself. "Mrs. Castillo, I'm Lily Mitchell. Your grandson asked me to be my companion in these final days." Maria reached out and took Lily's hand. Her grip was weak but warm. "He told me everything, about finding you in the rain, about your kind heart. He said you started nursing school." "I did, but I had to drop out. Life is difficult sometimes," Maria said gently. "We make sacrifices for the people we love. Your mother is lucky to have you." She patted the chair beside her. "Sit. Tell me about yourself. I want to know everything." For the next 2 hours, Lily sat with Maria and talked about growing up in Ohio, her mother's illness, her dreams of being a nurse. Maria listened with genuine interest, asking questions, laughing at stories. She told her own stories, too, about growing up in Sicily, coming to America as a young bride, raising Roman after tragedy took his parents. "He was 8 when they died," Maria said quietly, her gaze distant. "Car accident. After that, He became so serious, so determined to be strong, to never show weakness. She touched Lily's hand. But with you, I see something different in his eyes, something I haven't seen in years. Lily's cheeks flushed. I'm just here to help care for you, Mrs. Castillo. Maria, please. The old woman's eyes twinkled. And you're here because my grandson is falling in love with you, even if he doesn't know it yet. That's not. We just met. Maria's expression grew serious. He protects me fiercely. The fact that he trusts you, that he brought you here, that means everything, dear. Before Lily could respond, a knock sounded at the door. Roman entered, and his eyes immediately found Lily, scanning her face as if checking that she was okay. Nana. He greeted his grandmother, bending to kiss her cheek. How are you feeling? Better now that you're here, and now that I've met this lovely girl. Maria was positively glowing. I'm enjoying the loveliest company. Lily has been telling me the most wonderful stories. I like her, Romano. You chose well, although I did think you might. Roman straightened up, his eyes meeting Lily's over his grandmother's head. The sheer intensity of his gaze made her breath hitch. Teresa announced, "Lunch is ready. Do you think you can manage the dining room, Nona?" With Lily's help, yes. They assisted Maria into a wheelchair. She insisted she could walk, but admitted she was feeling tired that day. Roman pushed the chair while Lily walked alongside him. The dining room was as opulent as the rest of the house, but Teresa had set a small, intimate table by the windows, making it feel informal and warm. Lunch was homemade ravioli, so delicious it almost brought tears to Lily's eyes. Roman and Maria conversed in a mix of English and Italian. Lily found herself relaxing, laughing at Maria's stories about young Roman getting into trouble, and blushing when Maria openly speculated about the possibility of beautiful grandchildren with Lily's eyes. Nona, Roman said, but there was affection in his voice, not embarrassment. After lunch, Maria needed to rest. Roman escorted Lily out to the gardens while Teresa helped his grandmother back to her room. Thank you, he said quietly as they strolled between rose bushes. She hasn't smiled like that in weeks. She's wonderful. Lily touched a red bloom, its petals as soft as silk. I can see why you love her so much. She's everything. Roman stopped walking, turning to face her. My parents died in what everyone called an accident. But I know the truth. It was a hit meant for me. I was supposed to be in that car. My grandmother saved my life by asking me to stay home that day because she needed help in the garden. Lily's throat tightened. Roman. I owe her everything, and now I can't save her. The pain in his voice was raw and exposed. All my power, all my money, and I can't stop cancer. Without thinking, Lily reached out and took his hand. His fingers closed around hers immediately, holding tight as if she was an anchor in a storm. You're giving her something better, she said softly. You're giving her peace, love, the chance to die with dignity, surrounded by people who care. That's everything, Roman. He stared at her for a long moment, and something shifted in his expression. Before she could quite process it, he lifted her hand and pressed a kiss to her knuckles, an old-fashioned, reverent gesture. You're remarkable, Lily Mitchell, he murmured against her skin. Her pulse raced. I'm really not. I'm just. Don't. His thumb stroked over her knuckles. Don't diminish yourself. You're brave, kind, strong. You work 3 jobs and never complain. You sacrifice everything for your mother. You agreed to help a dying woman you'd never met because it was the right thing to do. His eyes burned into hers. You're remarkable. Lily couldn't breathe. No one had ever looked at her the way Roman was looking at her now. Like she was precious, important, worth protecting. Mr. Castillo. A man in a suit appeared on the garden path, his face etched with urgency. We have a situation. The Bratva. They hit one of our warehouses. 3 men dead. The transformation was instantaneous. Roman's expression hardened, the dangerous mob boss replacing the vulnerable grandson. But his hand never left Lily's. I have to go, he said, his jaw tight. Stay in the house. Stay with Teresa and my grandmother. Don't leave the grounds. Roman, promise me. Lily's grip tightened. My world is dangerous, and I've made enemies. If anyone knows you're here, knows you matter to me. He didn't finish, but the fear in his eyes said everything. I promise, she whispered. He kissed her knuckles one more time, then released her hand and walked away, his men falling into formation around him. Lily watched until he disappeared into the house, her hand still tingling from his touch. She was in so much deeper than she'd realized, and the terrifying part was, she didn't want to swim back to shore. 3 days passed in a strange new rhythm. Mornings with Maria, reading to her, helping with breakfast, listening to stories about Sicily and old New York. Afternoons in the gardens when Maria felt strong enough, or sitting by her side when she wasn't. Evenings watching old Italian films together, Maria translating the parts Lily didn't understand, and Roman always hovering at the edges. He'd appear at lunch, asking gentle questions about how his grandmother felt. He'd sit with them during movies, his presence both comforting and electrifying at once. Late at night, Lily would see lights on in his study and knew he was working, managing whatever empire required his attention. They'd developed an unspoken language. His hand on her lower back when he guided her through doorways, the way his eyes found hers across the room, always checking that she was okay. The Italian endearments he'd started using, Bella, Cara, that made Maria smile knowingly. But he never pushed, never demanded anything, just protected, cared for, watched over her like she was something precious. On the 4th evening, everything changed. Lily was helping Maria get ready for bed when Teresa knocked urgently. Miss Mitchell, Mr. Castillo needs you in his study now. Fear spiked through her. Is something wrong? Please hurry. Lily settled Maria comfortably and rushed downstairs to Roman's study. She found him standing behind his desk, tension radiating from every line of his body. 2 of his men flanked the door, and on the desk lay a manila envelope. What's wrong? She asked immediately. Roman's jaw was tight. Close the door. She did, her heart hammering. He gestured to the envelope. Someone sent this to my office downtown 2 hours ago. No return address, hand-delivered to the front desk. His voice was carefully controlled, but she heard the rage simmering underneath. Open it. With shaking hands, Lily picked up the envelope and pulled out the contents. Photos of her walking to the coffee shop in Brooklyn 3 months ago, entering her old apartment building, serving tables at Giorgio's, and, most chilling, getting into Roman's SUV the night of the rain. The last photo was different. A message was scrawled across it in red ink. Asterisk, she's pretty. Wonder what she looks like scared. The photos slipped from Lily's fingers. Oh God! The bratva. Roman's voice was deadly quiet. They've been watching me for weeks, trying to find leverage, and now they think they've found it. He moved around the desk, his hands gentle as they cupped her face. I'm so sorry, Lily. I brought you into this. I put you in danger. It's not your fault. It is. His thumbs stroked her cheeks, and she realized she was shaking. I should have been more careful. Should have protected you better. They know you're here. They know you matter to me. What do they want? She whispered. Territory I control. Shipping routes, access to ports. He released her face, but took her hands instead. They think threatening you will make me give in. Will it? Roman's eyes blazed. They have no idea what I'll do to protect you. But Lily... He pulled her closer until she could feel the warmth of his body. You need to understand how serious this is. The bratva doesn't make empty threats. If they can't get to you here, they'll wait until you leave. They'll hurt people you love to draw you out. Lily's blood ran cold. My mother. Already protected. I have men stationed at her facility in Ohio as of an hour ago. She doesn't know they're there. I made sure they're discreet. But Lily... He paused, seeming to struggle with something. You can't leave this estate. Not until I handle this. And that could take weeks, maybe longer. She should feel trapped. She should be terrified. But standing there with Roman's hands holding hers, his body a shield between her and the world, all she felt was safe. Okay, she said quietly. Okay. He looked surprised. You're not angry? You're not demanding I let you go? Where would I go? She met his eyes. Back to Brooklyn, to 3 minimum wage jobs and an apartment I couldn't afford? At least here I'm helping Maria. At least here. She trailed off, unable to finish. At least here what? His voice dropped to something intimate, dangerous. At least here I matter, she whispered. To Maria, to you. I haven't mattered to anyone in so long, Roman. Something cracked in his expression. Lily. Mr. Castillo. The door burst open, and one of his men rushed in, face pale. The Bratva just called. They're offering a trade, Miss Mitchell, for safe passage out of New York. They want an answer by midnight. Roman's entire body went rigid. When he turned to face his man, Lily barely recognized him. This was the mob boss everyone feared. Cold, calculating, deadly. Tell them no, he said softly. Then assemble everyone. Every soldier, every associate. I want the Bratva to understand what happens when they threaten what's mine. The man nodded and disappeared. Roman turned back to Lily, and the coldness melted away, replaced by something fierce and protective. You're staying here, he said. In this house, where I can protect you. I'm doubling security. No one gets in or out without my approval. Roman, I'm scared. The admission slipped out before she could stop it. He pulled her into his arms without hesitation, and Lily buried her face in his chest, breathing in his scent, his heart hammering against her cheek. I won't let anything happen to you, he murmured into her hair. Do you hear me, Bella? I'll burn this city down before I let them touch you. She believed him. That was the terrifying part. She believed every word. Why? She whispered against his shirt. Why do you care so much? We barely know each other. Roman was quiet for a long moment. Then he tilted her chin up, forcing her to meet his eyes. The intensity there stole her breath. Because from the moment I saw you in that restaurant, smiling despite your exhaustion, I knew you were different, special. His thumb traced her lower lip. Because you treat my dying grandmother with more kindness than most people show their own family. Because you're brave and strong, and you don't even know it. He leaned closer, his breath ghosting across her lips. And because I'm falling in love with you, Lily Mitchell. And I don't know how to stop. The world narrowed to his eyes, his touch, his confession. Roman, I know it's too soon. I know you barely know me, know what I am. But I've never felt this way about anyone. His forehead touched hers. And I'm terrified that before I can prove to you I'm more than just the monster everyone thinks I am, someone will take you from me. Lily's hands came up to frame his face, feeling the stubble on his jaw, the warmth of his skin. You're not a monster. I've seen how you are with Maria, how you protect the people you love. That's not a monster. You don't know the things I've done. I don't care. And she meant it. Maybe she was crazy. Maybe this whole situation was insane. But standing in Roman Castillo's arms, feeling more alive than she'd felt in years, Lily didn't care about logic or safety. I'm falling too, Roman, and that terrifies me more than the Bratva ever could. His eyes darkened with something primal. Lily, kiss me, she whispered. Please. Roman didn't need to be asked twice. His lips crashed against hers, and Lily's world exploded into sensation. The kiss was hungry, desperate, full of everything they'd been holding back. His hands tangled in her hair, while hers gripped his shoulders, and when he lifted her onto the desk, she wrapped her legs around his waist, needing to be closer. They broke apart, gasping, foreheads pressed together, hearts racing in sync. I'll keep you safe, Roman promised against her lips. Whatever it takes, I swear it, Bella. And as she looked into his eyes, Lily knew this man would do exactly that. Because Roman Castillo didn't make promises he couldn't keep, even if keeping her safe meant going to war. The next 48 hours passed in tense silence. The estate became a fortress, men patrolling the grounds, security cameras everywhere, no one in or out. Maria sensed the tension, but Lily did her best to keep her comfortable, reading Italian poetry and sitting with her in the gardens under the watchful eyes of guards. Roman disappeared into his world of meetings and phone calls, emerging only for brief moments to check on them. Each time he saw Lily, his eyes would soften, and he'd find an excuse to touch her, a hand on her shoulder, fingers grazing her cheek, a quick kiss to her forehead when his grandmother wasn't looking. On the third night, Lily woke to shouting. She bolted upright in bed, heart pounding, and heard gunfire, actual gunfire echoing from somewhere on the grounds. Terror gripped her as she grabbed her robe and ran to Maria's room. The old woman was awake, surprisingly calm, sitting up in bed with Teresa beside her. "The Bratva," Maria said quietly. "They're here." More gunshots. Lily ran to the window and saw muzzle flashes in the darkness. Roman's men defending the estate perimeter. Her blood turned to ice. The door burst open, and Roman strode in, gun in his hand, face grim. "Teresa, take my grandmother to the panic room. Now." "Romano," Maria started. "Now, Nona, please." He kissed her forehead quickly, then turned to Lily. "You two go with them." "No." Lily moved toward him. "I'm not leaving you, Lily." "No." She grabbed his arm. "You can't ask me to hide while you—" An explosion rocked the house. Windows shattered. Maria gasped, and Teresa helped her toward the hidden door in the wall that led to the panic room. But as they crossed the threshold, a figure appeared in the bedroom doorway, a man in black tactical gear, gun raised. Everything happened in slow motion. The man aimed at Maria. Roman moved, but he was too far away. Without thinking, Lily threw herself between the gunman and the old woman, her body a shield. The gunshot was deafening, but the pain never came. Roman had tackled the gunman, both men crashing to the floor. They fought viciously, punches, grapples, the gun skittering away. Roman was faster, stronger, more brutal. Within seconds he had the man pinned, unconscious. More of Roman's men flooded in, securing the room. Teresa got Maria safely into the panic room, and Roman turned to Lily, his face white. "You could have been killed," he said, his voice shaking. "You almost—" "I couldn't let him hurt her." Lily's own voice trembled. "She's everything to you." "Couldn't." Roman crossed the space in 2 strides and crushed her against him, his whole body shaking. "Don't you ever do that again. Do you understand?" "Can't, I won't." He pulled back just enough to frame her face with his hands. "If something happened to you, Bella, I'd burn the world down." "The world's already burning," she whispered, hearing more gunfire outside. "Then let it." He kissed her hard, desperately. "As long as you're safe." One of his men cleared his throat. "Boss, we've secured the perimeter. The Bratva are retreating, but their leader, Alex Volkov, is asking to negotiate. Says he'll stand down if you meet him alone." Roman's jaw clenched. "It's a trap, probably, but he says if you don't come, he'll return with twice the men and level this place." Lily grabbed Roman's arm. "Don't go, please." He looked at her, and the love in his eyes was devastating. "I have to end this. For you, for my grandmother, for everyone in this house." He cupped her face gently. "Trust me, Bella. I've been preparing for this moment my whole life." "Romano." Maria's voice came from the panic room doorway. She'd refused to stay hidden, leaning on Teresa for support. "You do what you must, but you bring your girl back safely, too. She's already family." Roman smiled, though it didn't reach his eyes. He kissed his grandmother's cheek, then turned back to Lily and kissed her so tenderly it made her want to weep. "Wait for me," he murmured against her lips. "I'm coming back to you. That's a promise." Then he was gone, striding out with his men, leaving Lily shaking in the destroyed bedroom. 30 minutes felt like 30 hours. Lily sat with Maria in the panic room, a surprisingly comfortable space with monitors showing the entire estate. They watched on the screens as Roman met Alex Volkov in the center of the gardens, both men flanked by their soldiers. "He'll win," Maria said calmly, holding Lily's hand. "My Romano always wins." "Do you know why?" Lily shook her head, unable to tear her eyes from the screens. "Because he fights for love, not power. Power makes men careless. Love makes them unbeatable." Maria squeezed her hand. "He's fighting for you now, dear. That makes him the most dangerous man in New York." On the screen, Roman and Volkov were talking. Then Volkov pulled a gun, but Roman was faster. He'd anticipated it. In a move so quick the cameras barely caught it, he disarmed Volkov and had the man on his knees, gun to his head. Roman's men moved in, surrounding the Bratva soldiers, who wisely dropped their weapons. It was over in seconds, complete surrender. Roman said something to Volkov that made the man's face go white with terror. Then Roman holstered his gun and walked away, leaving his men to clean up. 5 minutes later, the panic room door opened, and Roman stood there, disheveled but unharmed. His eyes found Lily immediately. "It's over," he said quietly. "Volkov has agreed to leave New York. The Bratva won't trouble us again." Lily launched herself at him, and he caught her, holding her so tight she could barely breathe. Maria watched with tears in her eyes as her grandson held the woman he loved. "I was so scared," Lily sobbed into his chest. I know, Bella. But I told you. I always keep my promises." He pulled back to look at her. "You're safe now, truly safe." "What did you say to him?" she asked. "To Volkov?" Roman's smile was dangerous. "I told him that the woman he threatened is going to be my wife, and in our world, disrespecting a boss's wife is a death sentence. He chose exile over death." Lily's heart stopped. "Your wife? Someday?" Roman tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. "If you'll have me, I know it's fast. I know you barely know me, but—" "Lily, yes?" she interrupted, laughing through her tears. "Yes, you insane, protective, wonderful man. Yes." Roman kissed her like she was air, and he'd been drowning. Behind them, Maria clapped her hands together, delighted. "Finally," the old woman said. "I was beginning to think I'd have to play matchmaker more obviously. Now help me upstairs. I want to plan a wedding before I die." "Nona," Roman protested, but there was joy in his voice. "Don't Nona me. I've earned the right to see my grandson married to a good woman." Maria beamed at Lily. "Welcome to the family, dear." Officially. As they helped Maria back to her room, Teresa fussing over broken windows and calling repair crews, Lily caught Roman's eye. He mouthed, "I love you," and her heart soared. 3 months ago, she'd been a struggling waitress with no hope and 3 jobs. Now she was standing in an Italian villa, engaged to a mob boss, helping care for a woman who felt like the grandmother she'd never had. Her life made no sense, but somehow, impossibly, it was perfect. 6 months later, Lily stood in the garden where Maria's roses bloomed their brightest, wearing a simple white dress and holding Roman's hands. The wedding was small, just Roman's men, Teresa, a few close family members, and Maria, who defied her doctor's predictions and was still fighting, seated in the front row with tears streaming down her face. "I told you," Maria whispered to Teresa. "Love is the best medicine. I'm not going anywhere until I meet my great-grandchildren." Roman smiled at his grandmother, then turned his attention back to Lily. "You saved me," he murmured as the priest talked. "You know that you saved me first," she whispered back. "That night in the rain." "No," he shook his head. "You saved yourself. You were always strong, Bella. I just gave you a chance to see it." When they kissed as husband and wife, cheers erupted, but Lily barely heard them. All she knew was Roman's arms around her, his promise whispered against her lips. "Forever. You and me. I'll protect you forever." And Lily believed him because Roman Castillo always kept his promises. As the sunset painted the sky gold and Maria laughed with joy, Lily realized that sometimes the most beautiful love stories started with a storm. And sometimes when you were at your lowest, crying in the rain with nowhere to go, the most dangerous man in the world would appear and say the 4 words that changed everything. "You're safe now," and you'd finally believe it.